to cut a pencil skirt, okay, I'm going to start with the pattern. I'm going to turn it, use the fabric. So this is the length, and then this, when you're drafting this pattern, is when your skirt is in fold. Okay, so now I'm taking my half length measurement for my skirt. This is my hip, which is 10 inches from the waist and then 14 inches from the waist. So I mark the dot and I'm ruling, taking that rule the way I told you to take the rule when you're taking your kimono jacket. Okay, so that's the half length measurement to know where my hip and my waist is. From my waist to my hip for this one was 10 inches, and then 4 inches from the hip to the under hip. Okay, so I took waist, hip and under hip half length measurement. Then I'm going to take the measurement for the waist, okay, plus 1.5 inch. Okay, for mine was 7 plus 1.5 inch, which gave me 8.5, and then my hip was 36 divided by 4, of course that's 9 plus 1.5 each, that was 10.5, and then my under hip was 8 plus my under hip was 8 plus 1.5 each, that's 9.5 each. So I just marked that there and then use my ruler to connect it. Okay, the 1.5 inch is for sewing allowance. Okay, all right, so I just connect it. You can just take 1 inch, okay, if you want it to really be tight. So you just take 1 inch allowance. So you just, then for the rest of the down part of the skirt, you can come in a bit more than I did. I just want the leg to be free, so I just took it and made it straight. Okay, so this is your basic pattern for your skirt. I'm just going to cut that out first of all before putting on my fabric. So after this, I'm just going to place it on my fabric on fold. So now this is my fabric on fold, and then place it. I'm taking the back first. So I want to show you something. The back, you see I take 1.5 measurement extra on the folded area. This is for zip allowance, okay, at the back, and then placed it. So I folded it to 1.5 inch extra and use my chalk to mark the skirt area that I'm going to cut out. Use my chalk to mark that out. Now before I take it out, I'm going to create a dart line here. So something called dart line. This is to give your cloth a shape. This area here is where you create your dart line. 4 plus half inch. That's what you're going to use and take your dart line. 4 plus half inch. You mark it and then you rule a line. So I'm going to mark it at 6 inches downward. This is where the dart is going to stop and start from the waist. And from the waist, I'm going to take half inch on both sides. Don't worry, I'm going to bring it closer for you to see. But let's just continue. And then I'm going to connect the dot from that 6 inches line that I took where I stopped my dart. Okay, and then this part is where I'm going to fold and sew. So this is what I did. Okay, you can see I took half inch on both sides on top here and stopped it at that 6 inches. This place is where I'm going to fold in, like sew in. Okay, this place is going to give your skirt some form of shape. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to do that on this fabric. So that means I've taken 1 inch out of it in total. So I'm going to do this on both sides. So I'm going to just what I'm doing here is I take 1.5 inch as a zip allowance out, mark that, and then take 4 plus half inch on the fabric, okay, at this point here, and then take a ruler and just use my chalk to mark that out, and then take my tape to check that it stops at 6 inches and mark where the 6 inches stop, and then use my chalk to take half inch on both sides. That's 1 inch in total, and then connect them to that 6 inches line that I stopped. Okay, this is where I'm going to fold in. Okay, this same thing I did here. So, and then I'm just going to cut out my back pattern. So this is me cutting it out. Okay, this is my back pattern for my skirt. All right, so next I'm going to cut out the front. So I've placed my front. Okay, this is my front on fold. You can see that this is me to unfold here. I did not add any extra inches because the front does not need any extra inches. So I'm just going to mark that out and then create the that line that I did, which I took 4.5 inch there, the way I did that one, and then cut it. I just took 4 plus half inch for the dart line. So this is the front and this is the back. You can see the back is higher by 1.5 inch here. That's for unfold for zip allowance. So this thing I did here, you're going to do it on both sides. That's on this the side that was folded in. So this side here that I fold into 2, use your chalk, mark it in, like you just use your chalk and just mark it there for you to know where to start your measurement. Then you take your tape, take 4 plus half inch where you took it on this side here, do the same thing, and then fold this in like this and sew. That's, you fold it and sew on that chalk mark. Okay, so I just did that. I folded it and sew. See how I did it? I folded it and sewed to that point. I did it on both sides. Okay, on both sides of the skirt, and that's what I'm also this is how it looks like. So when you fold it, it sort of gives it some form of extra shape here. Okay, this is how it looks like. You see how it just flows into the skirt here. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did here on this one. I'm going to do just exactly what I did here on the back. That's for this other one that is on the ground here. This one here, I'm going to do the same thing for the back one. So I'm done with both of them. This one is the back, so you fold the back into two and then you use the scissors to cut it, because that's where you're going to put your zip and your slit. Okay, so I cut it into two. Okay, so after cutting to two, this is where your zip will be, and then this is where your slit will be. So your slit, you fold this place like this down and so, and then this is it. Okay, so your slit where you want your slit to stop. So I sew the zip to this point. Okay, and then sew the rest of the skirt to this point, and then fold my slit this way. It's very simple. Once you're done doing that, the next thing you want to do is interface the skirt and sew them as I join both the front and the back together. So it's that simple. That's all. So I'm going to do that. I just did that, and this is the result of the skirt after sewing it. You can see the dart line that I created that gave the skirt shape. I'm turning it around for you to see it. This is it. I've turned it to for you to see. This is the dart line here, and that's it. If you have any questions, please ask me in the class. Thank you.